What's up and welcome to Kind of Funny's The Matrix in Review. That's right, we are ranking and reviewing and recapping every Matrix movie leading into Matrix Resurrections coming out later this year. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes and I'm joined by the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
What up, dude?
The producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Tim, when I text you, I know Kung Fu, your response is what, Paris? What is he supposed to respond with?
Whoa.
I love it. And of course, that voice making his debut on Kind of Funny in Review, it is the one and only Paris Lilly.
Actually, I should have said "show me," but Keanu so well. You know, I know this movie so well that I have zero notes in front of me, and I guarantee you, I'm gonna have a ton to say because I've just seen it so many times and I love it so much. I'm just excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on this, man, because In Review's probably my favorite show we get to do here, and I'm always excited to share it with people that love certain franchises. And you, when we were talking about Matrix, you're like, dude, I got to get on this stuff. Like, this is my shit. So I can't wait to have you joining us for this journey. Andy will be joining us as well. He is dealing with some stuff right now, so he is not going to be on this episode, but he will be on the rest of the episodes, rest assured. But we're going to get into it right now. Of course, this is Kind of Funny's In Review, where each and every week we get together to rank, review, and recap two different movie franchises. For the rest of the year, we are doing The Matrix, and we are continuing our Spider-Man rewatch, making our way to Spider-Man No Way Home. Very excited about all that. You can catch up on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. If you want to get the show as a podcast, all you got to do is search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny in Review, and we'll be right there for you. But if you wanted to get the show ad-free, if you wanted to watch live as we record it, you got to go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like our Patreon producers Molecule and Pranksy have done. Thank you so very, very much. Today, we're brought to you by MeUndies, Trade Copy, Warby Parker, and Shin Megami Tensei 5, but I'll tell you all about that later. For now, let's get right into it. We're talking about The Matrix with a runtime of 2 hours and 16 minutes. It was released on March 31st, 1999. By the middle of 2002, the famous bullet time sequence had been spoofed in over 20 different movies. So, yeah. This movie was kind of a big deal. It was directed by the Wachowskis, Lana and Lily, collectively known as the Wachowskis. The sisters have worked as a writing and directing team through most of their careers. They made their directing debut in 96 with Bound, and then achieved fame and success with The Matrix in 1999, a major box office success for which they won the Saturn Award for Best Director. They wrote and directed its two sequels, The Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions, that we'll be covering in the coming weeks, both in 2003, which is utterly insane to think about, and were involved in the writing and production of other works in the Matrix franchise. They went on to write and produce the 2005 film V for Vendetta, and probably most importantly, Nick, in 2008, they released the seminal film Speed Racer.
Oh my
of
God,
course.
they nailed it.
Never did anything after that. They just retired. They were like, it can't get any worse than this movie.
Can't get any better, everybody. Can't get any better. Paris, what are your thoughts on Speed Racer?
You know, I've not seen it in a long time. But
and that's not. Don't.
Okay, I'll stay out of it. Other than I say it wasn't as bad as I think people say it is.
Thank you. It's amazing, everybody. That's what Paris just said. But moving on from that, right, Kevin? Let's go. The music was done by Don Davis, which is kind of surprising. Not a big known name, but the budget for this movie wasn't high, so I guess it's not too big of a surprise. But he hadn't done anything too crazy. He did Jurassic Park 3, but a lot of that was just kind of adapting previous John Williams scores. Then he did Matrix 1 through 3 and Animatrix. The biggest thing besides that was Behind Enemy Lines. And I'm a little surprised because like the score to this is pretty damn cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This had a budget of $63 million and a box office of $466 million. And boy, golly, did it win a lot of awards. It won 4 Academy Awards for Best Visual Effects, Best Film Editing, Best Sound, and Best Sound Editing. It won all 4 categories it was nominated for that year at the Academy Awards. This is the largest clean sweep of nominated categories for a film not nominated for Best Picture. So that's kind of interesting.
Wow,
it's one of those
nominated
things
for Best Picture.
Because the Academy sucks. That's why. Because they saw this as an action movie and they didn't. It's one of those where if you listen to what they're talking about, the themes and the ideas they're playing with here are so incredibly cool and deep that I would argue that this is well, for lack of a better term, a real movie, right? Which the Academy, of course, makes some stupid distinction.
It's a very
now,
serious movie, yeah.
It's different, but it is a serious movie. And there's actually, going back and watching it again, I'm like, there's actually not as much action in this movie as I remember. A lot of it is really just these nuanced scenes between like Morpheus and Trinity and Neo talking about reality and the simulation theory. I mean, it's all, it's really, really cool. And a lot of it's just laying the lore for this movie that, you know, when we walked out of the theaters, I'm sure I was all like, that was like, that was great. That was perfect. We don't need more of this. And then of course we did get more of it, which is cool. But it was a crying shame that if this movie had come out now and had the cultural impact that it did, I think people would just be so pissed off if it didn't get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, if this would have, because I think the narrative with the Academy's changed since The Dark Knight. I think if this came out after The Dark Knight, it probably would have. Absolutely. You know, because I agree with everything you're saying. I think this movie is so deep on a philosophical level that I think the first time you watch it, a lot of it goes over your head, but there's just enough action in there. By the time Neo flies away at the end, you're literally going, whoa, this was amazing, right?
Which is, can we talk about that for a second? Tim, do you have more?
Just the last thing I want to say here is it did win a whole bunch of other awards, including BAFTA awards, Saturn awards. The film is considered to be among the best science fiction films of all time. It was added to the National Film Registry for preservation in 2012. I always love when we're doing a movie that has that, because that's like such a cool, fun piece of history. But Nick, go for it. What did you think about The Matrix?
I love this movie, and I was a little trepidatious going back. As you know, like going back and watching movies that are a couple decades old can be a crapshoot sometimes. Sometimes you're like, oof, that didn't age so well. And in this particular instance, I started this movie and I started thinking, oh no, is my perception of this movie off? Some of the effects aren't that great. Keanu's acting is prime Keanu, and a lot of it's very green. And I started thinking to myself, I was like, wow, this movie does look a little dated. By the time you get to him hanging up the phone, and as he hangs up the phone, Rage Against the Machine's Wake Up kicks off, and then he looks up into the sky and you hear the cacophony of him flying as the song kicks right in. I'm like, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. And by the way, I challenge anyone watching this in the comments right now, is there a movie with a better ending than that? I guarantee you can't come up with one. That is a perfect ending to a near perfect movie.
Kevin Coelho, what do you think?
I mean, this movie is phenomenal. It's crazy. I think that right now it suffers from, I have seen it too many times, where it's like kind of felt a little slow for me. And I feel like that third act, they kind of like, oh, what do we do? And it's like, okay, let's just quickly zoom through stuff. But like it's, again, I think I only have this critiques because I've seen it so many damn times, and like it's so good, and like the ideas that it plays with are so like next level stuff. It's very, very enjoyable, and like I feel like visually it still does pretty well. Like there are a couple shots there that are a little
some of the squid stuff. You're like, oh, we could have gotten another pass on that.
I don't know. I like the squid stuff. For me, it's more of the like random like gun, them jumping and everything slows the bullet time, right? Where people look a little CG'd more than I'd want them to.
Yeah, I'm saving you for last, Paris, because I feel like you're the expert here. But I utterly love this movie. I'm right there with Nick. That starting it up, I had this moment of like fear of like, oh fuck, is this not as good as I remember it? Like, did we just give this way too much credit? And I think that it took maybe like, not long, but maybe like 10 minutes for me to be like, oh wait, no, this is freaking awesome. And I feel like all of that is kind of necessary to lull you into this world that is a very weird world and kind of on purpose, right? And I feel like all the artistry, all the things that we've talked about for years, the Easter eggy type stuff of like everything in the Matrix has a green tint, everything outside of the Matrix has more of a blue tint, all that. It's like that is so damn cool, and like love that type of visual storytelling. But for me, what impressed me the most is how much this reminded me of a Nintendo game, where the effects were so pivotal and like groundbreaking at the time, but there is that worry of will they hold up in 2021 when we've seen CG kind of age so much. But I think that the Matrix, the choices they made with the special effects kind of are more similar to Nintendo art style choices as opposed to graphical limitations, where GameCube games still look fantastic because there were choices being made with the art style. And I think that the Matrix, for all the goofy looking stuff, I believe that in that world, that's how it looks, and I love that what we're seeing from Resurrections in the trailer. We're seeing a lot of that too. It kind of just seems like they're almost trying to go back in time with some of the CG because that is how it looks in this world. It's not supposed to look better. And I love that because that is such a bold decision to commit to, but I think it really works in service of this amazing cast of characters. Of course, the story is so damn cool. And I love that this works as an action movie. It works as a deeper movie. I feel like anytime it starts getting a little too heady and they're kind of just going in circles with words, they always write themselves into a place where it makes enough sense that you can kind of like not excuse it, but like make sense of it. I think that's the biggest like pro for me when it comes to how ridiculous this narrative can be and how meta it can kind of get. Like they're in control of the writing, and I think that that's a key thing. Nick, you had your hand raised.
I was just going to say on the front of the special effects stuff, I think the stuff that does hold up is everything they did practically, and I think that's because it's a specific style that I think they nailed. And going back and watching that, it's like you're watching a classic at this point. That stuff was for American audiences. It blew people's freaking brains away when we first saw the bullet time stuff. When you first see Trinity jump up and the camera freezes and we go around her, I was like, I'm watching something new now. This is a different world. And even some of the stuff that doesn't work, like for instance, one of the effects that always sticks out in my brain of being like, oh, I wish they had something different with that, is when she javelins herself across the building. And it sticks out. You're like, oh, that's not great. But it is immediately followed by a real actor tumbling down the stairs and Carrie-Anne Moss pulling up both those guns and then doing that wonderful line where she's like, get up, Trinity. Get up.
That's a good line.
Bit of trivia.
It's just perfect.
Bit of trivia on that scene on exactly what you're talking about when she goes through the window. Their original vision was for her to jump onto a train. Like as she's being chased across the rooftop, she would literally jump onto a train and get away from the agents. And I think if you look at Resurrections, what we've seen in the trailer, maybe they're going to try and recreate that, now that special effects are better. I guess I'm talking. I guess I'm talking. Man.
What do you think about The Matrix?
So for me, March 31st, 1999 was transformative as far as the way that I view cinema and sci-fi. I think one credit that I have to give to Warner Brothers going back then was the marketing, because it was, what is The Matrix? You didn't know what The Matrix was. And then when you go with what Morpheus even tells Neo, you can't be told what The Matrix is. You have to experience it for yourself. And that's literally what this movie is. You get to understand what The Matrix is, obviously, as you go through it. But that opening with Agent Smith rolling up and he's talking to the police. They're like, I sent 2 units. We're bringing her down now. And he's like, no, Lieutenant, your men are already dead. And you're like, wait, what? And then the whole thing with Trinity, and she takes everyone out in the room. At that point, you don't know if she's a good guy, villain, anything. Everything is so up in the air on what's going on. And then obviously when Agent Smith tries to run her over in the telephone booth as she's trying to, get out of the Matrix and she's gone, you're like, well, where the hell did she go? What's going on here? It's that whole opening scene for me. And like you said, it's been, 20 plus years now. I at least watch The Matrix probably at least 3 or 4 times a year, every year, probably since it's come out. I mean, that's just how much I love that movie. I think if you treat it as a standalone thing, like Nick said, it's a 10 out of 10. It's one of the best movies ever made. And it throws so many philosophical things at you that on repeat viewings, you're always pulling something new out of it. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even think of it that way. I didn't think of this that way. There's all the action. I know Kung Fu, the fact that there's this artificial world. You have Morpheus, that whole scene where he's like, what is real? How do you define real? It makes you think. And that's the beauty of this. Look, Keanu was Keanu in it, especially back then. But you had so many other solid actors around him. And again, just blanking on his name, but Agent Smith. I mean, to me,
Hugo Weaving.
Thank you, Hugo Weaving. Just some of the speeches that he has in there is it's so iconic.
And he has that wonderful the part where he's like squeezing his head. He's like a stench of it. And then his homie comes in and is like, bro, what are you doing?
It's like, cool, man.
It's just so good. I know we're going to get into all this, so I won't quote everything. But I will say this. The one thing with Agent Smith, I just love when he's interrogating Morpheus and he's talking about humanity and that we're a virus. And it's like you sit there and you think about it and you're like, oh shit, we are. I mean, he's spot on. And the fact that the machines tried to give us a utopia and we rejected it. We couldn't handle couldn't handle utopia. We had to have the chaos that is our normal world, that is the real world. And that's, what they decided to give us, because that's what worked for us. It's like all that stuff just is like, again, literally, whoa, right? When you think about that. But back to the point, I absolutely adore this movie. Like I said, I obviously can talk about it all day. I just think there's just so many iconic moments that came out of it that just changed the landscape of movies. I mean, like you talk about bullet time. We've seen it copied so much that it's an afterthought at this point. So it's like, I'm even curious when we get Resurrections. I don't even think there's anything they could do brand new that, like Nick was saying, back then in 99, you're seeing all this stuff and it's like, we'd never seen any of this stuff before. And that's what was so mind blowing about it. So yeah, this is an iconic movie, 10 out of 10. I just adore it. I can talk about it all day.
What's cool about you using the word iconic, I feel like this might be one of the most iconic movies of all time, because it's not just like, oh, that iconic scene or that iconic scene. I feel like every single scene is iconic, like even down to the early on when Neo is at his job and Morpheus is like on the phone with him and like kind of like, hey, you need to get low, you need to do all this stuff. It's just, that is such a dope scene just by itself, where it's like, how is he seeing him? How is he watching him? How does he know what's going on? It's like, there's a magic to it all, and I just feel like it's not just like the action scenes that are iconic. It's not just the lines that are iconic. It's not just that motherfucker Cypher eating the steak, talking about it. That's iconic. It's like, it's all of these iconic moments that don't just read iconic. They're memorable for a reason, but they add up to telling a fantastic story with an amazing group of people that you legitimately care about. So when people are dying, you're like, no.
How about this? Just going on that scene, like you said, where he's in the office building and the agents are coming and he's talking to Morpheus. Go back to the very beginning of that. He's late to work and he's talking to his boss. His boss literally tells you the entire movie then and there.
I love that.
He goes,
that until this one.
Yeah. He goes, you have a problem with authority. You think the rules do not apply to you. It's like, it's all just right there in that scene. And it's so good because he's obviously not understanding what his potential is and who he is. And then, we obviously go from there and the agents come and get him and, he still doesn't believe, which I'm sure we'll get into later, but it's just little things like that. You can even go earlier to that, the conversation with, Choi and Du Jour. Du Jour has the white rabbit, he's told to follow the white rabbit. And Choi tells him, you're my savior, man. You're my own personal Jesus Christ. Because it's literally who he is. The whole movie is a Jesus metaphor, right? And that's him realizing that he is the one to save humanity. Again, like you said, it's just iconic, all of it.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the plot, Nick.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 1999. A 19-year-old Nick Scarpino sits in the theater. Doesn't know what we're going to get. Right? Remember that part? We're like, we don't know what we're going to get here. Yeah. Now, Paris, I need your help with this one. You haven't done one of these with me, but I like to start off with an iconic line from the movie. And unfortunately, this movie has so many iconic lines to choose from. I'm going to give you 3 options, 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
Which one would you like to pick?
3.
Did you ever have a dream that you were sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world? Welcome to the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. I know Kung Fu. Tim?
Show me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody give it to me once. We start with, of course, you want to talk about iconic. Nothing more iconic than the lines of green code crawling vertically across the screen as it forms the title, The Matrix. And then we see it, man. Everyone's favorite thing from the 90s and 80s, an MS-DOS prompt. And we hear the dial-up modem. Remember those, Paris? Remember dial-up modems?
Yes.
Honestly, that is one of the funniest things about this movie is that the computers are these old school ass like computers, right? And it's like such a moment in time that 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look back on it. At some point, it's going to be weird. Like I feel like now it's weird, but we have the memories of it. We still knew about it.
I just think
we never had computers that were all green like that. Because
that's my thing is with Kevin on this one where I think they tweaked it just enough.
Yeah.
So that we'll look back on it and it'll be a style. It'll be a style choice, not a functional choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because they
Not
could have
like
done
a
whatever they
real-
wanted.
yeah.
Yeah. Because they also have cell phones. I mean, it's not like they have
Yeah,
technology in
man.
this,
Cell
but I do
phones,
think it's
though. All of the cell phones in this movie and later
the
ones are
Nokia.
so. Yeah.
There's a wonderful moment too where Neo's like hacking things, and he's got a machine that's dialing it for him, like the roto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I never noticed before. I was like, that's really cool. A lot of the stuff having to do the synopsis for this, I had to like go back and look at specific things. And there's so many Easter eggs and things all over the place. To Paris's earlier point, like a lot of the foreshadowing is just laid out here. But of course, the first person we hear is Trinity, who calls Cypher and gives him shit who gives her shit for liking Neo, because Morpheus thinks he's the one. And Tim, that's the question I had for you here. If we were to vote on the one for Kind of Funny, can I be the one? Can I be the Kind of Funny's the one?
Definitely.
I don't know.
You
Nick.
are a Cypher for sure.
You're a
Nick.
Cypher ass motherfucker, dude.
Well, he's just tired. He just wants to go back to his normal world. He
Hey,
made a mistake, you know?
But to that point, Dee was watching this too because she's going to watch all the series with us leading up to the Matrix because she's excited to watch the fourth, and she got to that scene and she's like, I gotta be honest with you, I kind of see his point. This, and I was like, I kind of do too. Like, if there's no difference between, if you don't know that you're in a simulation, then why not just stay in the simulation?
Exactly. Ignorance is bliss.
And that's the other thing. The other question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, there's just a bunch of stuff that we're gonna get into.
We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it because there's moments in this where I want to ask Paris questions because Paris is the Matrix expert. So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna call him. No,
Oracle.
Dang it. No, not Oracle. What's the one? The guy at the end was like vis-a-vis. The guy at the end of 3.
Oh, the architect. No,
the architect.
Yeah,
I'm calling Paris the architect from now on. You're gonna be the architect. I'll be Cypher.
Wait,
Tim, you're my Trinity.
Thank you.
Can I be Mouse?
No, Kevin's 100% Mouse.
Yeah.
All allowed.
You see
Mix
those
a
big
little
old
bit of
guns you
tank.
have? Wait, yeah. I was just gonna say, interesting. I didn't think about this ever before, and this time watching it, when Trinity is like talking to him on the phone, like we know that they have like kind of a relation, or he has a crush on Trinity, right? Cypher. And
Yes.
Cypher is shocked that she's the one answering the phone because someone else was supposed to be there. And when
Because this was like his test with the agents,
yes,
right?
this
He's the one
so
that ratted
he was,
her out.
Yeah, he was ratting out whoever was there to prove
And she
that
said,
he
"I
was.
picked up a." She says something like, "I picked up the shift" or something like that. And he was like,
Yeah.
"Uh oh." Yeah.
So that when they were trying to kill this person, right, to show that Cypher actually had an inside info.
Yeah,
And
they have
it
that
is
line too at
interesting-
the end of this, where they go,
Yeah.
the informant was correct or whatever.
That's
We'll
right,
find
yeah.
Morpheus.
It's the first time I've noticed that. It's
That's
interesting.
cool.
That was cool. I never noticed that before either. Of course, this kicks off the scene Paris was talking about earlier, where we see cops file in and they hold Trinity at gunpoint. We don't see her yet. She just puts her hands behind her back. We cut down to the street where the agents Smith, I want to say Agent Brown, and I forget the other guy's name, roll up. And they start talking to the lieutenant. And this guy's like, listen, Tim, well, I sent 2 of my units up there. I think they can handle 1 little girl. And he's like, no, your men are already dead. And that is a great line. No, Lieutenant, excuse me. Your men are already dead. And the guy's like, what? And then, of course, this kicks off the first action scene. And again, like this was the moment where she jumps up into the air, does a little like that pose. The camera bullet times around her. She kicks that guy's ass. And then as they're shooting at her, she runs up the side of the wall.
Yeah.
So dope.
So
Just
dope.
Cool.
everything about this was watching this. And when I was 19, I'm like, this is just going to be everything from now on. People are going to do this all the time because
And
it's
they
so
did.
cool and so exhilarating.
Yeah, they did.
They did it so much that it kind of, I feel like watching it now, it's like, oh, it loses its specialness, you know?
Oh,
Just
I
'cause,
think
like,
they still did it perfectly, though. You know,
I mean, I think it's cool, but it's also like we've seen it so many times. I always remember, what was it, the Scary Movie 2, I think did it too, where it, like they stop midway and make some comment, and like that's the definitive one in my mind. So when I see this one, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's been done a lot.
It's unfortunate, Kev.
It is, and it sucks. I know it. It's not right.
we kick over, of course, to the agents busting in, and they chase her up to the rooftops. I love this shot because it's all done practically with an actual set. And then she jumps, a little bit of green screen here, as the agents are shooting at her. Bursts through the window, the door to the staircase, falls down the staircase, and immediately whips out both of her pistols. And I love this moment because one of the strengths of the movie that we've kind of touched on a little bit, but I think we should talk about now is the casting of this film. like the three leads or the four leads really. You've got Keanu Reeves, you got Carrie-Anne Moss, you have Lawrence Fishburne,
Everyone.
and you've got Hugo Weaving. Are just three of them are just some of the best acting you've ever seen. It
I
really
honestly-
is. And Carrie-Anne Moss is awesome in this. She carries so many of these scenes.
But I also feel like go even further. Like Cypher is so good at his
Oh,
role.
Joe Pantoliano? Are you kidding me? He
Yeah,
also carried
so
Bad Boys.
fucking
Yeah,
good.
Joey Pants is great. Yeah.
Come on, Joey Pants. This moment here is one of my favorites in the film. Trinity has a lot of like smaller, nuanced things that she does that I really love in this. And we'll get to another in a second. But this one where she whips both the guns out, and it has a moment of vulnerability where she goes, "Get up, Trinity! Just get up, get up!" Like she has to tell herself. She's so scared of whatever this thing is that's chasing her that she has to will herself back to her feet so she can run. Of course, over to the payphone, she's called Morpheus, who's given her a way out. All of this stuff is like so cool to me. I was like, where's she going? What's happening? I don't understand what's going on. And then, of course, as she gets into the phone booth, it starts to ring. She looks over and sees the dump truck or garbage truck coming to like whip a 180 and come right toward her. And she does this mannerism twice in this film, and I love it. I absolutely love it. As it's about to smash into her, she picks up the phone and puts her hand on the glass, as if to try and stop the inevitable of this massive truck like plowing through the phone booth she's in. And then, of course, when the agents get there, she is gone. But the informant was correct. And now we've got the trace going, and we're going to find this person that Morpheus is looking for. And we cut through the phone over into the screen of Neo, who is played by the venerable, the lovable John Wick himself, Mr. Keanu Reeves.
The noise they make also when people are getting sucked into the Matrix.
Yeah,
So cool.
like that's the sound
Yeah.
design in general is so good.
Yeah,
in this.
The
it's so
sound
well
design
done.
and the music is just like the licensed music as well as the score. I just love it. It's so moment in time. This is such a like fucking cool cyberpunky world, and the use of Moby, the use of like all of the random ass electronic songs, Rob Zombie. It's like, let's go, man. It
You've
really
got-
kind of like sets the vibe.
On this soundtrack, you've got Prodigy, you've got Rage Against the Machine, you've got Rob Zombie, you've got I forget there's like so many. Propellerhead, which is my favorite song on this whole thing. That's the moment when they walk into the lobby and it's the whole lobby scene, and it just kicks off with that dope ass bass line. But speaking of Rage Against the Machine, again, you want to talk about a movie that's perfectly bookended and has great foreshadowing. His screen goes blank. He wakes up, and what do we see? What are the first words? I'll give anyone a prize for the first words we see on the screen being typed by Morpheus. Wake up, Neo, is what it says.
What's my
And
prize?
He
of
wakes
course,
up 7 times in this movie. I don't know what that means, but that is a trivia fact.
Lucky number 7. And of course, that wake up line is mirrored by Zach De La Rocha at the end of this when he's just screaming "Wake Up" at the end with that amazing song entitled "Wake Up" from Rage Against the Machine over the credits, which is 10 out of 10 for me as well. And that appears on the screen. He says, "The Matrix has you follow the White Rabbit." And again, you want to talk about people that have their heads on straight? You watch the Matrix Resurrections trailer, and they use the White Rabbit song.
Yes.
It's just so,
It's so
good. Everyone
good.
that's a
So
Matrix fan is
good.
just like, come on, dude. I thought we were done, and you brought me back in. And you gotta give it to Keanu Reeves. He's just so bad in this movie, but it's also perfect
It fits
because
so
he's so
perfect, yeah.
unassuming. You know,
Yep.
he's just such a lovable person. He's gotten better, to his credit. He gets a knock on the door. Of course, some of his clients come back to pick up a floppy disk, which he has hidden in a copy. I never noticed this before, of a book entitled "Simulacra and Simulation," specifically in the chapter entitled "Nihilism." That was pretty interesting. And of course, this was like the first time I had ever really understood the concept of simulation theory of like, are we all in a simulation and all that stuff? So it's pretty cool. This is pretty heady stuff. Of course, they invite him to a club, and he's like, "No, I got some stuff to do," until he sees the White Rabbit tattoo on De Jore's shoulder, and he's like, "Okay, off we go."
Pause on that. It's never explicitly stated, but I'm convinced that De Jure and Choi at least are from Zion. I think they're also people that were coming into the Matrix. So
different crew.
So they're using Choi. They're using them to basically like, in other words, Morpheus would have used them to test Neo to see if he quote unquote had the skills, which is what the disc is all about. Once he quote unquote passed that test, because Trinity obviously knows they're coming and going to this club. How does Trinity know?
Good point.
Follow the White Rabbit. Trinity's at the club. It's a safe place, which again, assumption is that Club Hell. I know we're skipping ahead to Reloaded and Revolutions, but is that the Merovingian spot that they're at? That's never stated either.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I have a question here.
Sure.
So what is Neo's character doing? Like, are we just supposed to? We don't need to worry about it too much. He's a hacker, cyber crimes. Like, like what could that guy possibly be like? Oh, you're my Jesus with this computer disk with what?
Well, he's clearly doing stuff on the dark web, and Trinity obviously was someone that preceded him as doing this because he viewed Trinity as a legend. Like, I didn't know you were a woman. You're the one that cracked the IRS database. So the assumption here again is he's doing some really crooked stuff, right? Some really illegal stuff that I guess Choi probably needed this disc to be able to do himself, which is why he got Neo to create it for him, allegedly.
Tim, it's very much.
Well, I don't
very
know,
much
allegedly.
like when Snow Mike streams for our channel, and then at night he goes and streams for his own channel. It's exactly like that. Only way more insidious and super illegal. We kick off, of course, this club with another club banger, as the kids call it, Paris. Rob Zombie's Dragula. You remember this song?
Dude, how could you forget this song? This song in 1999, you could not get away from it. It was in every video game, every single video game.
It was so cool.
It's cool as hell.
It was this one, but this wasn't the popular Rob Zombie song, right? Which one was it? More Human Than Human? That was the big Rob Zombie. That was the one I remember hearing first. And again, a riff off of Blade Runner. Anyway, Trinity introduces herself to Neo, and he's like, "I always thought you were a guy." And she goes, "Most guys do." Which is a great little line for her. I also love that they call her Trinity, which of course has very religious implications, going along the lines of the Jesus and the biblical themes here: Trinity, the Holy Trinity, all that stuff. At least that's.
And
what
the
I
cool
read
thing
into
is,
it.
Morpheus is the god of dreams, which is like an interesting name for his character.
Right.
Kind of ironic.
And Neo just means new. So there you go. Actually, I don't know what the significance is there. I just kind of made that up, but I assume that's the case.
It means new.
Okay.
I never realized that those two characters were Choi and Dojour, which means choice of the day.
That's interesting. I never caught that.
That's cool, yeah.
Now, I'll say this. These names are amazing, but they don't hold a candle to the amazing handles from the movie Hackers. Okay? Nothing gets better than Zero Cool. Nothing. Paris knows I'm right. That's why he's laughing. The next morning, Neo, let's see, she warns him that he's in danger. So she knows it's been looking for an answer. The only question that matters: what is the Matrix? Here's a question I have for Paris, because this is one of the I'm not going to say a flaw of this movie, but why don't they just pick him up here? Why do they let him go to work the next day, knowing he's in danger, knowing the agents are looking for him?
Yeah, you actually, that's a great question, because you would think at this point he's right in front of you. My only assumption is this was Trinity sizing him up, maybe.
Testing him, yeah, maybe.
And then reporting back to Morpheus, and Morpheus is like, okay, because if you skip ahead to the next scene, which you will, in the plot, Morpheus says that if they knew what I knew, you'd already be dead. Yeah. But we basically run out of time. In other words, maybe they thought they had more time. They didn't know that the agents were on to him. So, all right, Morpheus is like, well, screw it. Now we got to go to plan B. Let's go get him now.
I think another important thing is that, like, you have to choose this because it's so radically, like, it's going to change everything you understand so radically that if you don't choose it, it could be too much for your mind to take. And that's why there's the when he comes out of it, there's the scene where they're like, sorry, typically there's an age limit and you're right up against it, right?
Yeah, that's something I never actually picked up before this watch too. I was like, well, what is the age limit? And is that the same age limit that Yoda had for all the Padawans? Like, what's going on here? Can I still get out of the Matrix? This is what I want to know. This is what I want out of this.
No, you're in there forever. But you like it better. You actually have been out. You betrayed all your friends and got back in.
Cool.
That would make sense with the age thing, because obviously that was a big deal. That, again, maybe that's why they didn't grab him right then, that this was supposed to be a slow burn to get him to understand that, this world you're in is not real. We need to get you out, instead of just rushing to do it all at once.
Of course, the next morning, Neo heads in late to his job at Metacortex. Is the name of this business, and his boss tells him he sucks while people clean the window outside. Love all the visual imagery here too, because there's people literally outside that are obscuring his view, and as his boss is telling him the time has come to make a choice, Mr. Anderson, be on time or find another job, they're literally cleaning the window so he can see which is cool.
Yes.
And I love that too, because it's kind of great storytelling for the set piece we're about to get of him having to go out on the
On a
scaffolding,
limb,
there.
literally
So,
out on a limb.
yeah, and like that stuff's so cool. But like even the sound design of this scene is so unnerving, because the boss is talking to him, and you just hear, even when you don't see it on camera, you just hear the scraping of the
squeaking.
windows down. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, that's really, really cool.
Later, he gets a courier package with a Nokia 8110 in it, and man. When I think I speak for all of us when I say I wanted one of these.
Yeah, we all wanted that phone. Everybody wanted that phone.
So expensive though. It was like $1,000 or some shit like that. I was like, I can't afford that. I'm getting the original Nokia that doesn't flip or do any of that stuff.
I mean, right? That was the only difference. Part of it popped down. It
No,
even had a smaller.
Kevin, it slid down. That's even cooler. It slid down.
Yeah,
You click it,
but
it
it didn't.
slides.
You couldn't play Snake on it, right? The screen was just phone numbers.
I barely remember yesterday. And who's on the other line? That's right, it rings, and it's Morpheus. And he tells Neo, we're out of time. And Neo tells him, why didn't you just pick me up last night? And Morpheus is like, agree to disagree. Okay, Trinity's got to do her job. Agents are coming to find him, and Morpheus helps him get out of the office. And there's just this great, terrible bit of acting. Keanu Reeves has to talk to himself, and I'm like, oh, why didn't you just cut this part out? Wachowskis, like, he goes, why is this happening to me? What did I do? And it's so bad you can't help but just want to pinch his cheeks. I love him so much.
I love the idea that he's just sitting there trying to figure out what illegal thing got him in trouble. You know, it's like, fuck.
It's so hard to have. I mean, obviously, I love Keanu Reeves. I'm just giving him crap. But having characters talk to themselves like that, it's like characters that have to fake laugh. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let the acting speak for itself. We get it. He's confused. That's good. We don't need him to talk to himself. Anyway, he goes out on the ledge and he's like, you're going to have to climb up the thing. And he's like, I can't do this. So he winds up back in custody. And this is where I first noticed, man, they were not conservative at all with the green tint to these scenes. No, on my TV, it's almost unwatchably green. Like, almost. It's to the point, you know what it reminds me of, Tim? It's like when we first started color correcting, you're like, it's perfect. And you go back and look at that and you're like, oh my God.
Why did I do that? It's so vibrant. It's saturated.
So vibrant.
I think this scene also is absurd. Like how it went from like, all right, just go out the window and go around the thing. And it's like, all right, that's not the end of the world. And then suddenly there's that giant metal thing that he has to go around that's like aluminum. So it's like super thin metal. It's like, wait, who thought this would work?
No.
Who thought that was the
I like
options?
that he doesn't do it though.
Yeah,
I like that he because
that
I feel like there's a couple of moments in this movie that like even though I've seen it a bunch of times, it's like it surprises me how good of a job they do of making us believe in Neo's journey to become the one. Where it's like it's never just you're the one, so you're super powerful. It's like he really does kind of earn it. And sure, a lot of things are literally downloaded into his head to make him a badass, but like I think does a very good job of like showing himself become that badass to back up the stuff that was downloaded.
But what's very subtle and what's good about the storytelling here is that all that stuff doesn't matter. What really matters is that he has to choose and believe in himself. And that's why it's so cool. I love that. Like, no matter, first off, shout out to the fact that the first thing he learns is jujitsu. What up? But all of that doesn't matter. All he has to do, and I love the fake out with the Oracle later that we're going to get to, where she's like, she never says it, by the way. If you watch it again, she never tells him he's not the one. She lets him come to his own conclusions.
No, she tells him she's not the one.
Only after he says, I'm not the one, does she confirm it. If he'd have said, I am the one, she leaves it to him. It's only until he makes the choice to sacrifice himself for Morpheus that he actually becomes.
Yeah, because he has to believe on
which
his
is
own.
so fascinating to me because I'm like, wait a minute. Did she tell other people they weren't the one and then they just didn't believe in themselves? Like, because there's other kids in there. Like, do they just not believe that they're the one? Is all it? It's a very fascinating concept. Also, we're going to get into it later. Are they in the Matrix even when they get out of the world? Even out of the Matrix? 100%. That's going to be a question for Paris later.
Yeah. So going back to that interrogation scene really quick, one thing to point out, and you pay attention during the rest of the movie, after Keanu gives Agent Smith the finger,
so good.
He takes his glasses. He takes his glasses off. If you notice, whenever Agent Smith actually taps into any kind of human emotion, where he gets upset or gets vindictive, revenge, whatever, takes his glasses off every time. Just another little subtle thing that they do during the movie to kind of show, to differentiate him from the rest of the agents, where he's willing to get down there in the mud with humanity, when it suits him.
It's also nice too from a performance standpoint because it humanizes him a little
Yeah,
bit, and we
really
connect with
does.
him a little bit more. And Hugo Weaving's like strength, it's all he's great. Of course, this is the part that terrified me too when I was watching this the first time because they make his mouth go away. Like, how are you going to talk if you have no mouth or whatever?
Horrifying.
I just screwed that line up, but they make the mouth go away, and then they put a robot lobster in his belly button, and it's really scary.
It's
And
so
then
scary,
I
man.
don't like
he
it.
wakes up in his studio, and
But
thinks it was-
I love that so far in this movie. Again, we're only like 20 minutes in at this point, but we've seen a lot of crazy action scenes and Trinity kind of slow-mo flying and all this stuff. But all of a sudden, for his mouth to get shut, it's like it feels like, okay, there really aren't rules. Like they're really like anything can happen, and then later they back it in and kind of explain the rules of what's actually going on. But it's horrifying how they drip feed the information to us that at this point, this character that we're like kind of scared for, he just like was outside the windows, this whole damn thing, and now his body is literally morphing. It's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I butchered that line. I actually had it written down here. It says, "What good is a phone call if you're unable to speak?" Mr. Anderson. It's such good. Anyway, Neo wakes up in his studio. Although, I'm sorry, I have to do it. How about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call? It's like, Jesus God. Did Brad Pitt not accept this role? What's going on here? Anyway, Neo wakes up in his studio and thinks it's all a dream until Morpheus calls him and tells him he's the one. Quote, "You have spent the last 2 years looking for me, but I've spent my life looking for you." So he orders Neo to go under the most rainiest bridge in all of the city.
Most
where he meets
rainiest
up.
bridge.
It's just so rainy.
It's so rainy. Like it's
rainy.
impossibly rainy.
I love it. And Switch pulls up and he gets in the car. And in the car is Trinity and Switch. Switch pulls a gun on him and tells him to take his shirt off. Neo freaks out and wants to get out of the car, but Trinity stops him and says, "Trust me," and he does. So they take out a doohickey thing and suck out the robot lobster from his belly
Really
button,
cool.
and
Real
it's really
cool.
gross.
It's
Then they
so
take him to a
gross.
building.
Wait,
and
hold
they-
on. Then they toss it out the window and it
Mhm.
turns back into the little glass, like weird instrument thing.
Yeah,
So
it's
cool.
cool. I
So
like that
cool.
thing. They take him up an old staircase of an
that was
old
real.
building, and Jesus, that was real. It's like, yeah, good. And they enter the room, and she says, Trinity has some words of wisdom. She's like, "Listen, just listen to the man, trust yourself." And we see Morpheus for the first time, and as he turns around, lightning strikes in the light sky, and I am a sucker for that effect. It is the oldest trick in the book, but a bolt of lightning followed by thunder is just so good. As he's Lawrence Fishburne doing that cool thing, which he where he's holding his arms behind his back, which I couldn't do if you paid me to.
With those little fucking glasses that look
He
so dumb,
looks so
but it's so
cool.
cool.
I love him because he's got
I
like
love
that
how the-
alligator skin trench coat too. It's nasty.
Yeah, I love the costuming in this movie is so damn good. Like them when they're in their badass like leather shit, but then also when they're actually in the real world and they're in like just like the rags and stuff. Like so many great choices just to like have that visual storytelling to back up the characters and plot. But Morpheus's glasses, I don't care that they do it 15 times. Every single time we see a reflection and it's different things in each one of them, it is so damn powerful and effective. And I'm just like, yo, y'all motherfuckers get it. And them doing the red pill, blue pill thing, like to really like start that off. And the way that you see Neo's hand go, it's like, damn, dude, these motherfuckers got a movie on their hands.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what.
Oh man! Of course, they have a
pulled it up.
great
Yes.
conversation here about fate. He says, "Do you believe in fate?" He goes, "No, I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life." And they talk about the Matrix. Says, "What is the Matrix? The Matrix is everywhere. It's all around us. Even now in this very room, you can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes." I'm like, "Oh, I know that one." It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And he says, "What truth?" That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. But you can't be told what the Matrix is. You have to see for yourself. So this is where we get the iconic choice: red pill or blue pill. And I want to go around right now. Which one are we taking, Kevin? You taking the red pill or the blue pill?
Which one's the one that gets you to
You take the red pill, you get to stay in Wonderland, and I show you how. Or sorry, excuse me. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed, believe whatever
I
you
had the
want. You take the
image
red
too,
pill,
I just looked
you stay
over.
in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I mean, you got to do the red pill, right?
I mean, if you're
cool.
bored, I guess. I mean, he lives in a shitty studio apartment, and you got to imagine he eats like Andy, so he's about to die. Too much Mountain Dew game fuel. I don't know. Paris, red pill or blue pill?
In that moment, I would take the red pill,
Yeah.
but I would regret it and wish I took the blue pill, I would be Cypher. I think Cypher represents a lot of us in that way of you pulled me out of my reality and put me into the real world, which quite honestly sucks. I'd rather stay where I was. I'd rather be eating that steak. I'd rather be catching the bus every day and watching my favorite TV shows and doing all these other things that normal people were like Agent Smith says, living out their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you've shown me the real world where all these machines just want to kill me because I left. No thanks. Like Cypher says, I choose the Matrix. I'd rather go back personally.
Yeah.
Tim,
When me and Gia were watching it last night, the moment that this scene happened, she was like, "Oh, Tim, you'd be so fucked. You just choose blue." He'd be like, "Blue pill or red?" I'm like, "Don't even tell me the second one. Just give me the blue one. I'm in."
He's like, "I haven't told you what to do yet." Yeah, but blue's my favorite color.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But then later, when the Cypher thing happened, she was like, "Oh, you know what? Hey, it would have worked out for you. You're definitely a blue pill guy." And I'm like, 100% am.
Yep. It's one of those things where, especially, I would be like this. I'd probably take the red pill, right? Because I'm a hero. But then just, Gryffindor 3 and 3, I'm not gonna Ravenclaw. But I would get to that real world and be like, "Hey, Morpheus, what's the end game here? Oh, we're gonna beat the machines, but then we still have to live in this hellscape where we burn the sky."
Yeah, we'll fix it. We'll sort it out. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll fix that in about 1,000 years. How about that?
Maybe.
Well, that's the crazy thing is, as this movie gets older and older and older, we get closer and closer and closer to it not being that far off when they're in the distant future of, what was it, 2100?
I think it was 2199.
Yeah, 2199.
Remember that day there was a fire that was going on too long and it was just pitch black? It was
when the sky was orange forever. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
That looks very close to that.
But before we get back to the plot, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. The end of 2021 is here, so we're all looking for the best gifts for our favorite people. Well, MeUndies has you and your bottom covered with their ultimate gift guide, so you can save time and surprise everyone with the coziest gifts ever. Of course, I absolutely love MeUndies. I have for years. I'm wearing the lounge pants and the socks and the undies right now, and I love having my entire body covered in this soft micromodal fabric. The new MeUndies holiday collection features classic plaids and sweater-inspired prints that will soon be new favorites. Their undies, loungewear, and sleepwear are made from soft, breathable, stretchy fabrics, ideal for sitting fireside with loved ones, available in sizes extra small through 4XL. MeUndies has something for everyone. MeUndies has a great offer for you. First-time purchasers get 15% off and free shipping. Your days of fighting for your life in the mall parking lot are over. To get 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. Next up, shout out to Trade. Whether you're a coffee nerd or a coffee newbie, you need to hear about Trade Coffee. They want to make every cup of coffee your best ever. Trade matches you to a selection of their over 400 craft coffees, all based on how you answer their coffee quiz. They consider whether you like French press, auto brew, or even cold brew and pair you with the perfect choice for your taste. And if you don't love it, they'll replace it with a different bag for free. Trade's awesome. The quiz is super fun. I love that they send a bunch of fun flavors. And hey, coffee's always great, right? For our listeners right now, Trade is offering your first bag free and $5 off your bundle at checkout. To get yours, go to drinktrade.com/kindafunny and use promo code KindaFunny. Take the quiz to start your journey to the perfect cup. That's drinktrade.com/kindafunny, promo code KindaFunny for your first bag free and $5 off your bundle. And this holiday season, give the coffee lover in your life the gift of better coffee too, with their own personalized gift coffee subscription from Trade. Again, that's drinktrade.com/kindafunny, promo code KindaFunny. Next up, I want to give a shout out to Warby Parker. Warby Parker provides exceptional vision care online and in stores. And now that it's the end of the year, don't let your FSA or HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. And Warby Parker's contacts line Scout brings you a 90-day contact pack for only $55. G has been loving Warby Parker for years, and Blessing recently has been doing this try try at home program, which is awesome. They sent him a bunch of glasses. He's checking them out and he's really excited about it. You too can try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. They ship free and include a prepaid return shipping label. Couldn't be easier. You can try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/kindafunny. If you want to try the glasses, you got to go to warbyparker.com/kindafunny. And finally, shout out to Shin Megami Tensei 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is the newest installment of the acclaimed JRPG series developed by Atlas. You'll play as a young high school student who's granted an accursed power to save his life. He becomes a new being that's neither human nor demon, a Nahobino, and is suddenly transported from modern Tokyo to a post-apocalyptic world. You'll explore the demon-infested wasteland of an enigmatic realm that's filled with mythical deities and demonic tyrants in constant conflict for survival. If I had a nickel. Search for answers and forge your own path in a battle between light and dark, and your choices will dictate the fate of the world. Turn formidable foes into worthy allies by recruiting them via negotiations, and then fuse them to create demons customized to fit your playstyle. Shin Megami Tensei 5 has been fully rendered in 3D utilizing Unreal Engine 4, a first for the mainline Shin Megami Tensei series. You can order the deluxe and standard editions of Shin Megami Tensei 5 today on the Nintendo eShop. And now we're back, Nick. What's up?
Of course, Neo takes the red pill, otherwise we wouldn't have a movie, swallows it, and gets led into the room where we meet the rest of the gang. We got Cypher, APOC, Switch, and Trinity. We're going to meet a few other people later in the real world. The pill Neo took is part of a tracer program. It's designed to disrupt your input-output carrier signal so they can pinpoint your location. This stuff is so cool.
It's so damn cool, but also like this scene was another one of those ones I was talking about earlier where even the non-iconic scenes are iconic because we get introduced to the crew on the Nebuchadnezzar, which is the coolest sounding ship name ever. And it's like, it's already such a stark contrast visually to everything we've seen in the film so far that it's like, what the hell is going on here? But getting introduced to this team, there's nothing better than a getting the team together moment, right? And I feel like this movie does it so quickly, but effectively because it's playing off of the opening scene with Trinity calling Cypher and all that stuff where we're already a little familiar with a couple of these characters. So them adding on, you know, Tank and Dozer and all that, it's like, it's easy for us to be like, okay, yeah, this is the squad. I'm rooting for you guys. Like, it's very cool.
And I love
that. Now, to back up a little bit on that, what was going through your mind at that moment when they pull him out of the sewer onto the Nebuchadnezzar? He's bald, pale as, friggin' notebook paper. And Morpheus says, "Welcome to the real world." And to me, it completely blew my mind because at that point, that's when you started to understand that, oh my God, they were in a computer. Like now you're in the real world.
Well, just that image. We'll skip ahead there a little bit, of course, because he gets sucked into the mirror, and we have that great sound effect, and with the N64 liquid visual effect, where it's like, and his scream digitizes, and he wakes up in this massive, almost infinite harvest of these pods, in these embryonic fluid filled pods, and the thing grabs him and rips all the plugs out of his head, and then he gets literally thrown out. He gets washed out into below, which, by the way, a little canon breaking because they probably would have killed him and fed him to the rest of the people, as we've already established. And then he gets fished out with this blinding, beautiful light onto the Nebuchadnezzar. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, we're skipping ahead there. At this point, I would have been like this. As soon as I woke up and he was like, "Welcome to the real world," I would have whispered, and Tim, tell me if you can hear this. Blue pill.
Like, oh, I'm not liking this. I will say, I remember every time I watch this, because I don't remember this movie that much ever after, because it's pretty dense, but I always think of this being like a rebirth scene. And the fact that almost immediately they reveal it's not a rebirth, it is them actually like plucking him out of this thing where he's grown up there his entire life. Like, that is so much cooler even than it was. Like, him being reborn is cool. Him not being reborn and just living in that for his entire adult, like up to being an adult, is like infinitely cooler. And like, damn, they really did the damn thing.
Not only that, but let's back up for 1 second before we move forward. The idea that they had to give him this pill, and what the pill was it allowed them to find his body in the real world. It was like a tracer program to allow them to figure out where the rank and file was, or he was in. It's so cool. Just stuff like that What a great, well thought out. And then, of course, he asks later as they're giving him acupuncture, why do my eyes hurt? He says, because you've never used them before. That line blew my mind. Little by little, they bring him back to life, take some of the plugs out, except, of course, for the ones on his arms and the giant, massive data jack on the back of his neck. And this made me think of that one time Kevin said, put a chip in me. I don't care. Morpheus tells him his best guess is they're in the year 2199 and shows Neo around the Nebuchadnezzar, and we see the core where they broadcast their pirate signal and hack into the Matrix. Cool.
So cool. All those
Can
words
you
are cool.
you add cooler words to that sentence?
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible.
Of course, then,
Nebuchadnezzar, they're hovercraft, right?
it's a hovercraft. Yeah, that's what he calls it. It's a hovercraft. I'm like, cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Didn't need to
Cool.
throw that in there. I got it, but that's cool. Then we meet Tank and Dozer, brothers, and then Mouse, who is Mouse. Then
Hold
they
on.
scrap-
So Mouse is blowing my mind because Kevin slacked me
No,
some
that's
facts
not
about
Mouse.
Mouse.
Wait.
he's not the kid from Road Trip.
No, the kid that I just sent you is the Spoon kid.
Oh damn, that's
Yeah.
okay. That makes a lot more sense. Forget it.
Yeah.
Move on.
Okay.
Let's see. They jack Neo in and they show him. Let's see. They strap him into the chair and show him what the Matrix really is. This is never mind. That was a bad joke. Then
Do
they
you
jack
think it
Neo.
feels weird to get plugged in like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
can
this is gonna
feel
hurt
it,
a little
yeah.
bit. They load up the cool program called the Construct, where they can load anything from weapons to training simulations in this thing. And I remember this looking a lot cleaner than it is in this movie, and I think they cleaned it up for the next one. But man, this was like they were just like shoot them on white and open the iris all the way because it's so blown out on my TV in this. Let's see. And at this point, they start talking, and this is the first question that I have. Right? I'm like, so you pulled me out, and you're telling me that this is the real world. How do I know? Right? How do I know this isn't a simulation? Which is something that you'd think Neo would ask, but he never does, and it's interesting. Paris, is the real world a simulation as well?
I think the sequels confirm that it isn't. Because that's always been a theory that, it's a matrix inside of a matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think because of the sequels, that is the real world. That isn't them just having another layer of control, so to speak. But the point that you bring, sorry, one real quick. The point that you bring up though is interesting from my point of view. You put me in there and you're telling me all this stuff. Well, why aren't you questioning now where you are as well? Yeah, like you said, he was very willing to accept that. So that is an interesting point.
Kev?
I think there's a lot of things that will come up where it's like they don't make a lot of sense, and they do make a lot of sense if we are in the multi-layered simulation thing, and where this is like, they're doing that to corral the small percentage that can't be fooled by the simulation.
Of course, we get the backstory, the exposition of what actually happened. We gave birth to AI, a singular consciousness that spawned a whole race of machines. Then, of course, we got into war with said machines, and they just beat the heck out of us. We're like, hey, they run out of solar energy. So genius, 200 IQ play here. They just black out the sun. And people are like, did no one think, how are we going to grow crops here? Like, we'll figure that out.
Exactly.
We're going to worry about that later. Don't worry about it. Of course, throughout human history, we have been dependent on machines to survive. Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony, because the machine started using us as batteries combined with a form of fusion. And this is where I just say, Kevin, if I may, seems like fusion's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
But dude, talk about effects in this movie. The scorched sky looks so cool, man. Just like that, the rolling clouds and all the
bubbly,
colors. Yeah, it's really cool.
Now here's my question back to because I've always asked this. Why use humans? Why not just get a bunch of cows or something, right? Why did it have to be human beings? If you did other animals, they would have been a lot easier to control, and you wouldn't have to jump through 20 hoops to try and keep them from waking up. In other words, why are you taking an intelligent being when all it is you're just using their body heat with the fusion, to get everything to go?
I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot of wind in this post-apocalypse world. It would be easy for them to put a bunch of wind turbines. I think that they're doing it out of spite just to prove how like they can beat. That they're
exactly.
better than us.
Of course, we get. I know. SOBs. Then we get a shot of the endless fields where human beings are no longer born. We're grown. They liquefy the dead to feed the living. Gross. And then Neo wakes up as Joey. What did you call him? Joey Pop? Joey Pantoliano?
Joey Pants. Yeah, Joey Pants.
Is like, he's going to pop. And then Neo, of course, wakes up and horks all over the place. And he goes, I can't go back, can I? No, if you could, would you really want to, though? And
yes.
Neo responds, yes, 100%.
Yes.
100%.
Put me back in.
This is a hellscape. I hate you for this.
Yes.
Please. First chance I get. Morpheus tells him that when the Matrix was first built, there was a man born inside that had the ability to change whatever we want. It was he who freed the first of us after he died. The Oracle prophesied his return to end the war and free humans. Morpheus believes that Neo is that one. This is where it gets super interesting because, like, what happened to that guy, right? Like, where
he died.
He freed Morpheus.
He didn't free Morpheus.
Died, like,
well, he just said the first of us, not specifically that he freed Morpheus.
So it was years. It could have been like 100 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
1,000 years ago. Got it. And then
not that they give us that much time to play with. It seems like with them guessing that the years almost 200 years in the future.
Yeah,
only,
it's 200
right?
years. Yeah.
So it's not that much time to mess around with.
But of course, hey, no time like the present. Let's start training. Tank introduces himself as Neo's operator, and we learn that Tank and Dozer were natural born in Zion. And he's like, oh, what's Zion like? And he's like, it's like a dirty sex party. The entire thing is just dirt and sex. And he's like, all right, cool.
True.
Starting to get some stuff to look forward to here. Maybe it's like a rave. Tank throws on some hand socks and teaches Neo jujitsu in a matter of seconds. Man, this definitely would have saved my knee if we had this technology now. Tank gives him the full Monty, and when Neo wakes up, he tells Morpheus the same thing I tell Tim every day. Tim, I know Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And Morpheus responds, Paris,
show me.
Badass.
Yeah,
literally the best part of the movie.
You want to talk about a moment that I get chills every time I watch this movie? That line. And then
this entire scene of him being loaded up, doing the different fighting styles, but when it's cutting to the real world and we get him like, Neo's fighting Morpheus, like they're just so stoked. It's like, yo, these are like all my favorite parts of movies are in this movie. It's so cool.
For me, I still remember going back to 1999 when I watched this the first time. I remember being in the theater real time, looking at my watch and seeing how much time passed and go, oh my God, we got at least another hour of this. This is going to be like, yeah. Because to me, this just cemented the movie. Like, this is amazing. Again, things that you just normally don't experience when you go to an action sci-fi movie. This had with that whole kung fu scene with Morpheus, and then the way it ended.
Oh yeah,
you think that's air you're breathing now? It's like,
oh my God,
you know?
dude.
Do you believe that me being stronger or faster has anything to do with my muscles in this place? You think that's air you're breathing now, and then you notice the subtlety. He stops breathing heavily.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, I'm going to say this a lot, guys, because I never actually track how many times I put stuff like this when I do these synopsises. But I will say, I know I've already said it twice, coolest shot in the whole movie is Morpheus jumping up and then putting his foot through the ground as he lands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck, that's dope.
It's fucking cool.
It's so dope.
But real quick, I just want to say I love that the introduction of the brothers being pure humans born in the real time and introducing Zion and stuff. It's like, I love that the movie had the balls to be like, yo, I know there's a lot going on, but like this is a very cool element and we're just going to put it out there because I feel like that type of thing makes everything else a little bit more grounded and like a little bit more believable. So you start putting things together. They do it again later, like setting up the EMP before without actually using it. I like that stuff because I feel like there's a lot of heady, crazy shit going on, but there is a real world that they're living in.
And actually, I love how that scene's edited too, by the way, because they have the thing passes them by and then it slowly fades to black. And it's just like, I'm like, all right, you're using some cool techniques here. Kevin, what were you gonna say?
I just think you believe like living in that world and just being like, oh, all those guys get to plug in and go to this imaginary world. And it's just you can't participate. Yeah, like that sucks.
I'd be like, put a data jack in me. Let's go. Let's put a chip in each other, Kevin. Of course, Neo in the scene punches so fast he blurs his arms just like the agents do. Nobody kind of catches it there, but he stops short of smashing Morpheus's face, who says, "I can only show you the door. You're the one who has to walk through it." And he's like, "Oh, you mean a literal door?" Morpheus orders Tank to load the jump program. And this is like, he's like, you have to let go, free your mind. Morpheus jumps from one building to the other. Another cool shot. And then Keanu Reeves is like, okay. Sorry, I can't gloss past this. Because this is the moment that Keanu Reeves gave us what I would consider one of the best memes ever. Thank you, Keanu Reeves. Because as he does that, the camera pans into him and he goes, whoa. It's so bad.
But it's
I love
it's
it.
classic.
good,
It's
it's
a classic,
Classic, dude. Of course, he tries and fails miserably and bounces into the ground. And Cypher tells him that everyone fails the first time.
I feel like Neo is or Keanu is such a like perfect choice because the first time, and it's been so long since it's been the first time for any of us to watch it, the entire time we're like, whoa, because they're saying things and they're saying it dumbed down so that he can understand, but also so that we can understand. And it really like we are constantly like they fucking jump and we're like, holy shit. And then it's like, oh, you can jump, and it's like, whoa. You know, they nailed it.
It's cool. Neo, of course, wakes with blood in his mouth, and we learn another lesson. If you're killed in the Matrix, you die in the real world. The body cannot live without the mind. So we set some stakes here. Cypher creeps on Trinity and wonders why Morpheus hasn't taken Neo to the Oracle yet. Then we get one of the dopest beats in the movie, Clubbed to Death by Rob Dugan, and it slaps. As Morpheus teaches Neo another important lesson. This is that great spot where he's like, they thought they were in the Matrix, but he freezes it all, and we see the woman in red. And he's like, the agents can move in and out of everyone inside the Matrix. They are everyone, and they are no one. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they failed, you will succeed. And he goes, what are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets? No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
So cool.
So badass. It's so
what does
badass.
that mean? What does that mean?
I don't know, but
You'll
it's
see.
cool. And then at the end, he doesn't have to. He just stops the bullets. Everything they wrote for Lawrence Fishburne to say, it's like they wrote this and was like, we have to get Lawrence Fishburne. We have to get him to say these lines because they're just so perfect. Anyway, up in the real world, trouble is brewing. Squids are coming, and this is where we get them hiding in the sewer and the EMP setup. They stop momentarily and then continue on. Later, Cypher shows Neo the Matrix code, which is a cool concept. I love that they were like, "Oh, that's actually code that you're seeing," and he's like, "What you see is code. I see is like blonde, brunette, this, that, and the other thing." So he's reading the code in real time.
I don't believe anyone knows how to read it. You know, like sees it. I feel like everyone's just faking.
It's
Like,
like
one
it's like me
person
with
maybe
alcohol,
did.
where I'm like, everyone's kidding, right?
Yeah.
Like alcohol's terrible, right? Like, why
Yeah.
does everyone drink this? This is horrible. But Joey Pants has a great line here. He goes, like, I know exactly what you're thinking. Why, oh, why didn't I take the blue pill?
Exactly.
And he's like, do you know why you're here? He's like, yeah, so I could save the world. What do you say to something like that? A little piece of advice. You see an agent, do what everyone else does. Run your ass off. Over the Matrix, then we immediately cut to the heel turn here. Cypher is eating a really nice looking steak and strikes up a deal with Agent Smith if he rats out Morpheus, because they want the codes to Zion here. And he's like, I don't got the codes, only the captains do, but I'll get you Morpheus. In exchange, I want you to wipe my memory, and I want to be rich, just like a rich actor. That's what I want.
Yes. Yeah. Someone important.
Someone important. Yeah.
I love the cut, man. I love the cut of if you see an agent, do what everyone else does, run. And then the immediate cut to him talking to an agent. So damn, like that heel turn is fast but earned.
Yeah, it really is. Now, if we go backwards just a little bit to the conversation with Cypher and Neo, so when that happens, I've always assumed that Cypher setting up whatever program he used to be able to sounds kind of prudish, but self-jack himself into the Matrix. Right. And that's because I think he legitimately got scared by Neo walking up on him because he knew he was doing something shady at that moment.
Yeah,
Interesting.
100%.
I never
That's a good
caught
call.
that. I never caught that. That's cool. We get a fun scene where they're all eating this mush-like stuff, and Mouse talks about they talk about chicken again. Another interesting concept here, really deep concept. They just drop on you, right? Where it's like maybe they just couldn't figure out what chicken like tasted like, or like what these things tasted like. That's why everything tastes like chicken. And I'm like, are we in the Matrix right now? I don't know. Then it's time. They head up to broadcast depth so Neo can see the Oracle, and we
Wait,
gotta
we're not
play
gonna talk
some.
about Mouse trying to pimp out his little program.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry. He did. He tried
weird,
to get him a
weird.
little one-on-one with the red dress woman, and it's creepy. But it's one of those things where I'm like, well, if you're living in a hellscape, maybe you got to give yourself at least something. Let's see. Then we head back into the Matrix, and again, every cut here has a slap. This one, I believe, is Prodigy. Awesome shot. One of my favorite shots in the movie, as we're we're spiraling around the team in the real world in the Nebuchadnezzar, and then we're spiraling around, we're dollying around the phone as it's ringing, and as it goes, it stops, and the team's just in the Matrix, and they're all in their dope ass clothes. Even now, it's looking kind of dope.
Dude, it's like one of those things where I keep saying this, but like this movie just has all of the iconic movie moments we want to see, and it just works for this new, brand new. You don't know anything about this movie. You go into it, it's all brand new lore. It reminds me of Ghostbusters 1 in that way, where it's like there's just so many cool elements that they're throwing into this that when we get to see them do cool things together, we're like so in it as if it's Avengers 1. Like this shot reminds me of the Avengers spin moment, not just because the camera's spinning, but because I want to see these people now in their weird ass leather outfits.
Neo, let's see, excuse me, Cypher, of course, takes the opportunity to throw one of the cool Nokias into the trash can, tipping off the agents of what they're doing. And Neo can't believe his eyes. He's like, I used to get dim sum over there, which would be a trip. You'd be like, wow, this is a little bit weird coming back to this after what you've seen. And they head over to the Oracle. And this is when, he asks what the Oracle said to Trinity, but they arrived too soon for her to actually tell him. She's like, it was kind of a weird thing, but I can't tell you. Anyway, the Oracle is the same one who made the prophecy. She's been there since the beginning of the Resistance. She is a guide. She can help you find the path. And he says, what did she tell you? And he says that I would find the one. And he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's for Morpheus. And then he said, of course, as they're actually at a literal door, he says, I told you I could show you the door, but you have to walk through it. We get another one of those cool shots where the door is like reflective and we see Neo's hand grab it. And of course, as he does, someone on the other side opens it up and ushers him in. And this is where we get a little bit of like, hey, what's up? Maybe this is in the X-Men universe. We got a bunch of these weird, freaky little kids like floating shit and bending spoons.
Powers, you know what I mean?
And they got cool powers. And then we got a little British kid who's like, do not try to bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only realize the truth. What? There is no spoon. It's like, all right, kid. You know what? I'm gonna get you a little treat.
Chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? Just chill. Let me get you. I'll get you a cookie.
Yeah, but again, this movie is just filled with banger lines that make you go
there
like,
is no spoon.
oh shit. Like,
how many times did people say there is no spoon after this?
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. But like, it is earned. It was built up to in this. And when that happens, you're like, okay, cool. There's people in here that like are young, training, understanding this at a level that our Neo does not know at all.
But later she says other potentials out there.
Yeah.
So those are people that might be the one.
Yeah. And they're young, which is important. Right. So those are the kids that's what he's talking about, that age bracket, right?
Yeah.
Of course, he's taken to the Oracle, played by, in this movie, Gloria Foster, who is just phenomenal. And unfortunately died before the next one, so they had to recast her. But I think you got to do what you got to do. But she was phenomenal. It's unfortunate. I loved her in this. Oracle asks him if he thinks he's the one. And so she says, being the one is just like falling in love. No one can tell you if you're in love. You just know it through and through, balls to bones, Paris. That's a good line. And then she examines him and does some, just kind of this is for show. And she tells him, she's going to tell him, she says, you know what I'm going to tell you. And he goes, I'm not the one. And she says, sorry, kid. You got the gift, but it looks like you're waiting for something. So she never tells him he's not the one.
Important thing she says, though, with that, maybe your next life. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because he literally dies and is reborn.
He dies,
at the end.
There you go. Oracle tells Neo that without Morpheus, they're lost. Morpheus is going to sacrifice his life to save Neo's because he believes in him. You're going to have to go to make a choice. In one hand, you'll have Morpheus' life. In the other, yours. One of you is going to die. And then she gives him a cookie. And this is where I get hungry. I'm like, I should order some cookies. As soon as you step outside that door, you'll remember you don't believe in any of this fake crap. You're in control of your own life. And I love her performance in this because she says it matter-of-factly. Like, you're going to remember you don't believe in this fake crap. But what she's saying is, go with your gut. Like, don't believe in fate. What I'm telling you is not the truth, but you have to figure that out for yourself. And it's said the opposite, right? It's almost like it's really good. This scene's good.
It's killer, man. I love all the dialogue she has. I love like her place in this and her role in kind of these characters' journeys. I will say that the two things that I'd say are my least favorite elements of this movie as a whole, and full transparency, do not remember 2 and 3 at all. Like, I don't know where the plot goes, period. So we'll find that out in a couple weeks. But what the Oracle's deal is, like how she knows all this stuff, was something that kind of like took me out of it, just where I'm like, oh, you don't even explain that in this. And I get that at some point it's midichlorians where we don't need everything explained. I just think it's weird that there's this character that knows the future. And then the other side of it is the Trinity love stuff. I don't think they nailed in this movie. And I think that like it was kind of a tell not show type thing a little bit more than I would have preferred. But
I could appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer the Oracle question, and again, this goes into the sequel stuff and some of the comics. She was a program that was created to basically study human behavior. So that leads into her
algorithmic guesses, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's and also
she's
this
gone
is
bad, right?
I can't remember. I think she went rogue because she's
now
rogue.
Like
she was a program designed by the architect, and then I think she's using it now.
Left that,
yeah, she's since left it, and that's why I think they
But there again, yeah.
But anyway, cool concepts, and we'll talk about those a little bit more. Remind us to talk about those in depth because it's cool. Her role specifically. Of course, Morpheus tells him, keep what she said to himself. That's for you and you only. As they head back, Tank spots something weird in the Matrix, and Neo looks over. He sees a black cat. And then he looks over. He sees the same black cat, and he goes, "Huh, that's weird." And they're like, "What?" He goes, "Oh no," he says, "Deja vu."
Deja vu.
And everyone freaks.
What a weird ass thing to say. Period.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you say that. I say every once in a while when I get deja vu, and again, it's like
but deja vu. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was always like, "Oh, I've seen this before, or I've been here before." Not immediately.
But that's what deja vu is.
Yeah, I think it's that feeling.
Never had that
it's the feeling of seeing something that you've already seen.
Experienced something, yeah.
And like the way they portray that in the movie is actually show it twice.
Yeah.
So that second time he saw it, he was like, "Oh, that's weird. I feel like I just saw that," you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the only way they can show that, you're not wrong, Tim. The only way they can show that to the audience though is just showing the cat twice. It's a little on the nose, but I love it because because when they explain what it is, like deja vu is a glitch in the Matrix. It happens when they change something. Mm-hmm. So cool. And of course, what they changed is there's no windows left in this building. They have bricked them all in, and they are all completely trapped. And we get
the brick shit is dope. Like what a cool thing, because it's so ridiculously over the top as a solution to like keep them in this building. But I love that, especially coming right off the deja vu thing, where it's like, yo, they're changing something, and it's like it just kind of builds the stakes of like the agents are not playing games here. Like they're like, okay, there is a threat with this group of people.
And I love this next scene, right? He calls it in, he gets the schematics for the building, and they put a hole in the wall, and they have to climb down between the main wall and the wet wall.
And they fucking kill Mouse. That sucks.
So cool. Yeah, they do kill Mouse, which sucks.
He comes out with the biggest guns I've ever seen in my goddamn life out of a giant suitcase.
Yeah, like street sweepers. They're great. But then, of course, Cypher gives them up by coughing. And, of course, he did this on purpose so that they would know where he is. Agent Smith he takes over one of the cops' bodies, which that effect's just so it's so like creepy. And then busts through.
It's really well done.
Neo. Yeah.
It's really well done. I feel like it's aged. I was talking about some CG effects that look dumb, but I feel like the shaking and then the agent taking over often in like a different direction really, really works still.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
And of course, as Neo's in trouble, Morpheus like summons his energy and just punches his way through the wall. It lands on Agent Smith, and he says, "You are," and Smith says, "Smith, Agent Smith." And Morpheus goes, "You all look the same to me," which is great. And then this fight scene is just awesome because Morpheus just gets like he tries, but you learn for the first time like how powerful these agents are. And Smith kind of gets up like a vampire, where he's just like, "Argh," and they start fighting. Cypher gets an exit first and heads back to the real world. Then he gets a beat on Dozer and Tank and fries them with I guess an EMP gun, some sort of electric gun. I don't know what this is called.
Yeah, I think it looked like maybe like a pulse.
Yeah, like a portable EMP kind of gun. Yeah, because it would have been used on the Sentinels.
I think it was more like some sort of like laser gun or something. Because an EMP doesn't have like an actual electrical burst.
Mm-hmm. Then of course we get he kills them, and then he takes over the line and calls them as they're waiting for their exit, and it's just super creepy and a really sinister scene. Specifically when he's talking over Trinity, you're just like, oh god, it's so fucked up, and they're so vulnerable there in the Matrix. They can't do anything. Whereas APOC gets it first, and then Switch. And man, you want to talk about a line that people say all the time. Tim,
another great meme.
Give it to me, Tim.
Oh, I don't remember.
Not like this. Not
like
this.
No.
Right. Not like this.
I don't know. Another white. Like just like she stands out from the rest of them so starkly.
But there's a reason for that, actually. Another trivia thing with Switch, which they obviously who knows, made the decision they didn't do it. But Switch was supposed to be a woman in the Matrix, but a man in the real world.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's hence the name Switch.
That's really fascinating.
I feel like that would have been a really cool choice for them to actually make.
Yeah, I think so too.
And obviously, we've seen now with the Wachowski siblings,
Sure.
it would make a lot of sense why they would have done something like that.
For sure. Of course, he heads over to Neo, and this is Cypher heads over to Neo. Says, if Morpheus is right, then there's no way I can pull this plug. How can he be the one if he's dead? You never told me if you believe Neo is the one. Look into his eyes, look in those doughy brown eyes, and tell me yes or no. And of course, Trinity says yes. And then Cypher screams no as Tank pops up, and he's like, "I'm not dead, man." And he fries.
Fucking
Yeah, let's
Cypher.
go,
Yeah.
dude.
Such a good, perfectly written, like great paced scene. He brings Trinity and Neo back. Agent Smith, of course, Morpheus at this point has been taken into custody. And this is where we get that great monologue to Morpheus as they torture him for the Zion codes. He tells Morpheus that the first Matrix was designed as a perfect world, but it was a disaster. Finally, they figured out that as a species, human beings define their reality through misery and suffering, which is why the Matrix was redesigned to the world as we know it. Back up in the real world, Tank tells the audience that if they hack Morpheus, they'll get the code. So they got to pull Morpheus's plug back down to the building. Agent Smith orders the Sentinels deployed immediately because he knows that that all they have to do is pull Morpheus's plug and they can kill him and cut off their information pipeline. But then we get a moment with Tank where he says his goodbyes to Morpheus, and Neo stops him. He says the Oracle told him this would happen, that he would have to make a choice. And then he says, I'm going in. And Neo tells Trinity, she's like, you can't go in. He's like, I'm not the one. But she can't believe him. She says, Morpheus believes something. Sorry, let me back this up because I love the scene. Neo tells Trinity he's not the one, but she can't believe him. Quote, Morpheus believed something, and he was ready to give his life for what he believed. I understand that now. That's why I have to go. And he says, why? Because I believe in something. And Neo says, what? She goes, this is Neo talking. She says, why? He says, because I believe in something. She says, what? And he says, I believe I can bring him back. And of course, Trinity's like, well, you're not going without me, so fuck off, and we're going together. And then they go into another iconic scene where they go into the construct. Tank loaded up. They get in there, and he's like, what do you need? He's like, guns. Lots of guns.
And now here's the thing. Keanu's shitty acting, it all led to this. And now all of a sudden, it's the coolest thing in the goddamn world. Because now that he's went from doofus to fucking superhero. And now you can do whatever you want because you're saying guns. A lot of guns.
Lots of guns.
So
Of course, we get that breakdown with Agent Smith where he finally breaks down. Morpheus takes his glasses off and says, I hate this place, this zoo. It's the smell. If there is such a thing, I feel saturated by it. I can taste your stink. Every time I do, I fear that I've somehow been infected by it. I must get out of here. I must get free. And in this mind is the key. And then the music, as the music ramps up,
so good.
We get the bell, ding, ding, ding. It's like almost like alien style music here as we see a pair of steel-toed boots walk through the revolving door, and we get greatest scene ever put on film. Right,
we
get that.
So many fucking guns. It's insane.
But of course, the metal detector goes off. And we get a great beat where Silence the guy's like, sir, open your coat, and he opens his coat, and it's just layered with guns. And then Keanu does that 1-inch punch thing where he punches the guy back, and all hell breaks loose. They kill the first wave of bad guys, which is like the level 1 bosses.
Wait, hold on, real quick. This is an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about before. They kill the first wave of bad guys, but they don't. They just kill the first wave of security guards that work there. Mm-hmm. You know? None of these people are bad people.
No.
They're just...
They're humans.
They're not.
They have families and shit, and they're like murdering and blowing them up.
But go back to what Morpheus tells Neo with the woman in red. Mm-hmm. They're part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can be, like, if you listen and break down what Morpheus, like, he says a lot of terrorist-like stuff, you know?
Well, it's like, it's interesting though, because it's a moral conundrum, right? Exactly what you're talking about. That's what he was setting up there, where he's like, these people are trapped,
all these
but
people
they're also
lost,
our enemy.
Yeah, all these people probably had families, a good majority of them, right? Mm-hmm. Statistically speaking, who've now lost their family members, and it's like, could there have been another way other than aggressively murdering them all?
Yeah,
Maybe.
those bodies are not being identified. Like every single bullet was used. This room gets destroyed. And
Yeah.
one fun
Dude.
little trivia thing is
Now-
that shot where the pillar
The
falls.
pillar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like apparently that wasn't planned,
Yeah, it was
and
an
like
accident.
it was an accident. Like it's the shot we're using, man.
Oh, it was so cool. There was
It's
another
so
piece
cool.
of trip. We'll get to that later. But 2 shots in this that I love, and then we'll move on. Trinity, of course, I think steals the show here personally, as she walks up behind the cop and kicks the gun, the shotgun, up over his shoulder, and then pumps around into him. I'm like,
Fuck.
that is cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the cartwheel to grab the AR as he comes back up and starts shooting
Yeah.
people as he's like cartwheeling. Super cool. And I just want to give a shout out in general to the choreography of all of these fight scenes and everything that's happened here. Because I think, did we talk about the choreographer at all? I forget in the beginning. Wu Ping, who was
Shaw Brothers, right? All the Shaw
was
Brothers.
it the Shaw
stuff?
Brothers? I thought it was Wu Ping.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it is Wu Ping, but I thought he did like for all the Shaw Brother movies. I
Oh,
thought he
yes.
was the guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just all this stuff is so cool. It's just so beautiful, and it just translates so wonderfully to film. And then we get the pillar scene where as the elevator closes, that pillar falls, and it's perfectly timed. Then the other agent's walking on Smith as he's like kind of squishing Morpheus and sniffing him, and they're like, "Oh, this is a little bit weird." And then Agent Brown's like, "He does this sometimes." Okay, he's a good agent, I swear.
Something I hadn't thought about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Oh, just something I hadn't thought about before is he's got this big fear that he's infected by this virus that is humanity, and he then comes back as a virus. Yeah.
I love this next part where
Paris, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I wanted to go back to the lobby shootout real quick. Just 2 quick bits of trivia on that. So the scene where you see Trinity run up the wall, there's a quick cut there, and then she lands because the first time she does it, she breaks her ankle. So they had to go back and do it. And then when you see Keanu at the end actually do a kick to take the guys out, that's the first time he does that in the movie because he had not completely broke his neck, obviously, but it broke his neck or something, and he couldn't do any kicks. If you notice the rest of the movie, he's not doing any kicks because he couldn't, because during the whole training, leading up to the movie, he's wearing a neck brace the entire time and he couldn't do kicks. So that was the first time they actually had him do one.
Oh, that's awesome. Of course, they're standing on top. We find them again standing on top of the elevators. They put a bomb in it, and right before Neo shoots the cable so they can jet up, he says to himself, "There is no spoon," and they blow up the elevator and ascend to the roof.
So
Upstairs, we get the iconic rooftop fight scene, and probably the shot that everyone knows most from this movie, right? He draws on the agent, and the agent goes right, and he empties his clip, but he can't hit the agent. And then I love this part, by the way. He goes, "Trinity, help!" Like I'm out of options here, and a great moment of vulnerability for our protagonist here. And then Brown opens fire on him, and we get the shot of the movie, which is him doing the limbo as the bullets are weaving past him as we're getting bullet time and doubling around him, and it's super, super cool. And then they're like, and then the agent walks up to him and goes, "Only human." And then Trinity goes, "Yeah, dodge this," and just point blank fucking canoes his head. It's so cool. And then of course they look over and they see a helicopter, and again, cool fantasy fulfillment. Do you know how to fly that? Not yet. And then she calls up and says, "Give me the download me the information for the B2 helicopter," and she knows how to fly it, which is cool. Cool. And we get another great scene here where Morpheus is being tortured, and the water starts going because of the explosion. The water's everywhere as the helicopter comes down, and Neo just levels the minigun at them and opens fire. And there's that great shot where the rounds hit Smith so hard they literally take him off his feet. And I'm like, at first I was like, oh, it didn't kill him, but then it actually ends up killing all the agents in there. And Morpheus has to summon his courage again.
Morpheus fine, totally fine. You know what I mean? Everything else decimated, but this big dude sitting in the chair, totally fine.
That's my one part with that. It's like, how did you miss him the entire time?
He snaps his cuffs, of course, and starts running. But as he does, and he tries to make the dive to the helicopter, one of the other agents barges in and shoots him through the calf. And Neo realizes that he's not going to make it. So what does he do? He jumps out after him. The two meet in the middle, grab each other, slam into each other, and then hang from the helicopter as Trinity tries to pilot it away. But the helicopter takes a couple bullets, and so it starts to go down. And there's another great shot. This whole sequence is like 10 out of 10 for me, but it's a great shot where he sees and he's like, okay, that rooftop's close enough. And he drops Morpheus onto it, who then tumbles and looks up as Neo drops onto another rooftop and then doesn't even hesitate. He does that cool fucking thing where he like wraps the tie line around his arm, and then starts like trying to literally pull the helicopter
Catch
off
the
as it goes off,
helicopter.
and catch the helicopter. And then Trinity just somehow is like, "This is my only hope." Grabs the cable and then shoots
So
it
fucking
as the
cool.
helicopter smashes into and ripples the glass in this sort
It
of
is
like
the biggest explosion ever recorded on film.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it is so ridiculously epic. I love it.
it's amazing.
Remember that one
And we know-
time I ran into the glass door?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
swear to you, that's what it looked like. It rippled for a second. I swear.
It was beautiful. And at that point I was like, I think Kevin might be the one. Morpheus says to Trinity, "Do you believe it now, Trinity?" And then Neo tries to say, "Morpheus, the Oracle, she told me." And then he lays it down. Exactly what you needed to hear. Neo, sooner or later, you're going to have to realize, just as I did, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path.
Now, can I pause here?
Absolutely.
At this moment, again in 1999, when we're talking about the whole Matrix Cinematrix stuff, I was convinced, oh my God, this entire thing, this was all just a training program to get him to believe that he was the one. They're not even really in the real Matrix yet. This is just a test to see if he is the one, and he quote unquote passes. So that's what I'm thinking in this moment right now, which again, if that was true, would have just completely blown my mind.
Damn.
That just blew my mind right there. Sorry. Let's see. They call it. That's right. Okay, they call it another exit where it's down on the subway station, and Morpheus exit first, but Trinity takes the opportunity to tell Neo something. She says, "Everything the Oracle told me has come true. Everything but this." And then, of course, a nearby person, a homeless guy, is watching, and he morphs into Agent Smith as Trinity picks up the phone. And once again, he pulls his gun out and shoots. And she does that cool thing where she puts her hand on the glass one more time, and the bullet just pierces through the phone and just blasts it to smithereens, cutting Neo off from his only exit. He starts to run it first, but then stops himself. And he looks over and he stands his ground. And I think it's Tank that says, "What is he doing?" And Neo and Morpheus says, "He's beginning to believe."
So badass.
Oh
so
my
badass.
God.
Yes.
What?
Come on. And
Yes.
this fight is awesome. Notable moments, and I think there's a piece of trivia here you probably have, Tim, but notable moments, Hugo Weaving taking fucking haymakers at Neo and just knocking parts of the columns off, just cement parts. And I read a piece of trivia that the prop master was like, "Make sure you hit this part right here because it's breakaway brick." And he goes, "Okay, cool." And it wasn't. And he broke his hand. He just he just put one through it. Was like, okay, well, my hand's broken now. But then I always love the part in this where Neo throws a punch at him and he stops the punch and Neo goes "Whoa," and like punches him with his finger.
In the net, in his throat,
Yeah.
and he makes the noise.
Now this was also another moment in that fight where he kind of breaks the glasses and then he takes them off, and then that's when Agent Smith is like, "I'm going to enjoy watching you die."
Yeah.
Right? So again, he shows emotion when he doesn't have the glasses on.
Yeah.
Another great part too, I think, right before that, where he punches Neo back and Neo gets up and he does that like pose.
Yeah,
and looks at him and
yeah.
he gives him
And all
the
that like dust.
Yeah.
"Let's go."
Gives him this, dude.
He gives him
Oh!
the "let's go." So good. Smith throws Neo on the tracks, of course. He just kind of gets the best of him as the train approaches, and he says, "That's the sound of inevitability. Goodbye, Mr. Anderson." And Mr. Anderson says, "My name is Neo." And then he
It
jumps
is the
him
most
into
telegraphed line of all time, and when it
Yeah.
happens, we're all there like, yeah,
It's
yeah.
horribly delivered, and I love it. I couldn't
I
love it
love
more.
it, dude.
Jumps him into the ceiling, of course, as the train hits him, and you're like, oh, when you were in the theater, you're like, "Oh my God, he killed an agent. That's so cool." And of course, it's totally a red herring because the train stops, and who gets off? Agent Smith, because everyone in this
so
world is an enemy.
cool.
And you're
But
like,
see, this is the thing: is like this movie could have ended here, and it wouldn't have been the most satisfying thing, but it could have ended here. It could have like had this moment, maybe a little bit of resolution or whatever. He beat the thing, and like, oh, but there's more out there. We have to get him in the sequel. It
Mhm.
doesn't do that.
Mhm.
No, we get the rest of this fucking movie.
Right. And the rest of the movie goes as follow. Up top, a priority warning alert. The squids are coming. They're approaching. Morpheus orders them to charge the EMP, even though using it means certainly killing Neo because it'll sever his connection. Neo steals a phone and talks to Tank for another exit as the agents morph all around him. I love how much fun they have in this scene. There's a moment where he runs through a building and he sees an old lady, and then a knife hits, and he looks back over and it's Agent Smith that's throwing the knife, and you're like, oh my God, these guys can come anywhere. And this tension that this builds is so unbelievably palpable. Of course, they get red alert. The squids approach. And they start cutting through the hole. Neo heads up the fire escape. We hear the phone ringing as he heads straight for apartment 303. I don't know what the significance of 303 is.
I do.
Okay, what is it?
I do.
I figured you'd know it. I didn't bother looking it up.
Couple things. When you see the ones throughout, and this is just throughout the sequels, those are all things that signify Neo. When you see anything with a 3, that's signifying Trinity. And the significance of it at that very end, that is the same place that Trinity was at the beginning of the movie, because you even hear that Tank talk about they just patched a line. Like, in other words, this was a line that was cut and was recently patched. That's how Smith knew where he was going. He was like, I know exactly where he's going. I'm going to beat him there, and I'll be waiting on him.
That's
Fuck,
cool.
this movie's good.
That's dope. And of course, this is a great shot where he opens the door and just comes face to face with Agent Smith and his Desert Eagle. And Smith just pumps rounds into him and empties the clip point blank, killing Neo. We see his lifeless body slink down to the floor. Morpheus and Trinity watch as his vitals flatline back in the real world. And the agents check his pulse and says he's gone. And then Mr. Smith says, "Goodbye, Mr. Anderson," as the laser beam cuts close to Trinity while she whispers into Neo's ear. I love this whole scene too. She's just sitting there whispering, unfaltering, as these lasers are cutting around her from the hole. She says, "Neo, I'm not afraid anymore. The Oracle told me that I would fall in love with that man. And that man, the man that I love, would be the one. So you see, you can't be dead. You can't be, because I love you. You hear me? I love you." And then she kisses Neo, and sparks literally fly behind her. And I love it. And Neo's vitals come back to life. Of course, in the Matrix, Neo opens his eyes and she says, "Now get up." And the agents look over and they see him get up, and they level their guns at him to open fire. And Neo just says, no. And stops the bullet right in their tracks.
It's so fucking cool. But the Trinity thing, it's like, oh, I really wish that it was better. Because, like, why would she love him? Explain it to me.
I don't know.
Okay.
Tim,
I don't
heat
have
of the
an
moment.
But I'll say this, because Carrie-Anne Moss is such a good actor, and I think because they had such good chemistry, her and Keanu, I buy that she has affection for him at least. And she sells the material as best as she possibly can.
This scene is great. I just don't think, like, it's one of the few things I don't think is earned for the rest of the movie.
I will say this, and I'm kind of with you, Tim, but I will say this. If you go back to the very beginning conversation she has with Cypher, Cypher is kind of making fun of her. You like watching him, don't you? In other words, she's been watching this guy for a long time. So it could almost be a thing of she had fallen in love with him from afar.
Mm-hmm.
So then when she finally gets to meet him, that kind of just seals the deal. I mean, if you want to try to make sense of it.
No, I think that is right, but it just doesn't feel earned or justified.
Should have been.
But, you know, what are you going to do? They only
a couple
had
more
so much
scenes
time.
between them could have helped. But I will say this. I dare you to sit in a room with Keanu Reeves and not fall in love with him.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Of course, after they see this and the bullets are frozen in thin air, Tank asks how, and Morpheus responds, "He is the one." We see the Matrix again.
Dude, we see his point of view. And he sees the Matrix and he's oh my God. Could this be cooler? I don't think so.
And the music in that moment as well, like it crescendos up, and then he is the one, and then boom, you see him with the coat. Oh, it's so good. So good.
And then we get another square off here. But this time it goes differently. Agent Smith runs over to him and tries to strike him, but Neo parries with ease. Also just getting to the point where he's like, I'm going to flex on this guy a little bit. Leaves it to one hand. Yeah. Like takes a step back and just leaves it to one hand and be like, oh, this is really easy now. And then just punches him, decimates him, and then runs into him, through him, into him, and becomes him, and then blows him apart in blinding white light. The cracks him down the center, blows him apart, and then does this cool thing where he goes, and as he breathes out, the world around him ripples. Literally ripples, and as he looks up at the other agents who go, "Fuck this," and they just bounce. They just bounce. Like, we're not gonna get our programming deleted. Two squids.
I love the breathing, and I love that. I didn't really love him going in him to make him explode. It just felt a little bit weird.
I think it was a mistake that they later try to incorporate into things, but
I like it only because it shows that he has such a mastery of it. Because that is the agent's power, is to be able to morph and take over other people's bodies and basically kill them. Right, or use them for however much they want. So I thought that was his like level up on that power. Like, I'm so powerful, I can corrupt a program and delete it basically whenever I want, which is like lines of code from the Matrix, which is cool.
Yeah, but jumping physically into someone isn't as cool as like teleporting into them.
No,
but
that's true. that effect, they could have done something better with that, and I'm sure we'll see something different in the newer ones. But of course, two squids break through the hole and Trinity screens for Neo, who heads toward the ringing phone. Out of time, Morpheus presses the button in the EMP, and a massive electrical pulse turns everything off. Then Neo, of course, has made it out. He wakes up and he kisses Trinity. And we cut to another DOS prompt and hear Neo's words, this time over the phone. The seemingly endless lines of code stop, and a systems failure error message appears on screen. And we get the ending monologue with the wonderful soundtrack here where it says, I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you, a world without rules and control, without borders and boundaries, a world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you. And as he hangs up the phone, the fucking best Rage Against the Machine song ever made kicks in, and then he steps out, looks directly at the camera, looks up, and it just has it's that cool cut where it cuts to wide and then it cuts to super wide as you hear a crack ring through the air, and you see him just fly toward the camera as Zach De La Rocha just screams, come on, and it ends. Boom. Roll the credits. You cannot put it in the comments. What movie ends better than that right there?
I mean, it's insane, dude. Like, it's so insane. And this is another thing that was earned. They talk about flying earlier. And it's like, to see him fly at the end of this, it is like, they've just done such a good job of showing him see the Matrix, showing him fight with one hand. Like, he literally does the jump in explosion thing. And then he fucking flies at the end. Like, they somehow found a way to up this movie. We already were like, yo, it's a 10. Dude. And then this final scene, you're just like, motherfucker can fly now? What?
I know. I remember watching this in theaters being like, all right, that was a lot. That was a little too much. But I
was like, that might be a little too much. That might be a little bit too much.
I love it.
But I mean, it's fucking cool. Suddenly he's Superman.
Yeah. It makes sense, right? And of course, we're going to see that later in movies. But that is The Matrix 1.
I love to see it. Nick, hit me with the haiku and review, please.
7 syllables in the middle. You got 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to sweat it. Haikus, they don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review. Let's talk about The Matrix.
You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write your review in haiku form, just like Dan Golden Spider did. Neo has a boring job. Morpheus says red pill or blue. Reveal the true reality. Blackjack says the Matrix has you. Remember, there is no spoon. The one breaks on through. And then, of course, we have... oh, no, wait. Sorry, one sec. Jeremy Zuccarello wrote in saying Neo is the one and he needs guns. Lots of guns. Matrix. So much fun. Zaid Wilson says red pill or blue pill. Truth or comfort. But I ask. Okay, no low stuffs. And Matt Bauer says, follow the rabbit. You will see red or blue pill or what will be. So damn cool. So damn cool. Yeah. Now hit me with that ragu bagu.
Ragu.
Bagu.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Right Guys Talk Bad Guys here for the Matrix series right now. Where we go, I guess we'll just throw Agent Smith and the Machines, I suppose, are the bad guys in this one.
Sounds like a dope band.
Yeah, Agent Smith and the Machines.
What
do they call them? Squiddies?
The Squids. I love that. I just looked up as Kevin brought out his heavy metal hair. I was like, that sounds like a cool band. Way. That is amazing. So we'll put them at number 1, I think, for right now. And we'll see where they rank later.
Absolutely. And then, of course, ranking the movies, this one is number 1. I'll be shocked if it moves, but we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, next week, we're coming back with The Matrix Reloaded. Andy Cortez will be joining us, giving us all of his thoughts as well on this movie and that movie. Very exciting stuff. Paris, thank you for joining us for this. It's going to be super fun having you for the rest of these. I'm really excited to get your thoughts on 2 and 3, because I know the world might not be high on them, but I think from what I hear, you have some positive things to say, right?
Some.
Okay, good. We have some positive things. Let's go. I want to get educated. I want to learn. Until next week, Nick, what do you got for me?
Whoa.
Thank you.